Hi, this is Christine Hides coming to you with our weekly children and family ministry message. Like many of you, I have been taking a lot of walks lately, and I have had two walking partners. They are podcasts and audiobooks, so they are socially distant, but the two people that have really walked with me these past couple months have been Susan David, who's a psychologist from Harvard, and Brene Brown, whose name you are probably familiar with as a researcher about guilt and shame and forgiveness. So, both of them have very practical methods for being our best selves in a time of crisis and for building resiliency, both in ourselves and in our children. In church language, we might say that they help us grow into our command to love God and love neighbor, even when really challenging things and really hard things are happening. So, what I like about this is that psychology and science can inform our practice of being the people that God created us to be. And I think that's really cool. So, both Susan David and Brene Brown in different podcasts talk about the importance of story in making meaning in life, especially when things around us are going a little bit crazy. So, here's an example. So let's say that my daughter comes downstairs in the morning and I say, "Good morning." And she answers with a grunt and an eye roll. Now, what I understand from these researchers is that what I'm feeling with that eye roll, that is a sudden influx of emotions. It's a chemical release in the brain that is happening because I'm angry or frustrated and upset because of this eye roll and quick grunt that came at me. And so the brain is wired to begin to make sense of it by telling a story. So the story that I might be telling myself in that moment is that, oh, she must be mad at me because I told her to clean up her room. And how dare she be mad at me because that's really ungrateful. I asked her to clean up her room 2 weeks ago. And then that, all of that, the blood pressure raising and that tense feeling I'm feeling, comes out and I act on it and it becomes an argument because the story I've told myself is that one that's pretty simple, but may or may not be true. So, another way that I could handle this would be to pause and, before responding, I could take a breath and ask her, what's going on? And she might tell me that school, online school especially, is really hard right now. She's missing her friends and she's just feeling, kind of crummy. And none of that really has to do with me. It's just a very real feeling that she's feeling right now. And in that moment, then I can begin to feel compassion and to tell myself a different story about what is happening. And we can work through that. The other thing is that this now becomes an opportunity for me to teach my child how to deal with all of these complex emotions. Because not only are we parents who are learning to be our best selves and to be the people God created us to be and to have resilience and to manage our emotions, but we're also responsible for teaching our kids that. And so here is an opportunity for me to, sit down with her and begin to make some meaning out of a really chaotic situation. Fortunately, our family has a lot of shared stories that help us make meaning. Even though my girls are, older teenagers, we still have lines from picture books that we share with one another. You can tell we love books and we love stories. And one of the picture books that we still quote is Ladybug Girl. And it's about a girl who has to make her own fun when her mom has to do some work. So she needs to go outside and keep herself occupied. So when our family talks about, oh, well, we should, have a family game night or we should do this, but the reality is that some of us have to work or study. Sometimes we'll say, oh, well, guess I've got to make my own fun, ladybug girl. So this story helps us to make meaning. And the other piece of that is that at the end of the book, there's an understanding that Ladybug Girl does get to spend that time with her family, that once the work is done, that, she has time with them. So we have a rich variety of stories. Our family also talks about Bible stories and how they are helping us make meaning in this time. It doesn't mean that none of us have questions and we don't wrestle with, what does that mean or how did that happen? But we have Bible stories that, help us make meaning. So we think about the stories of Moses leading people into the wilderness, and those stories help us make sense of a world and to make sense of where God might be when we land in an unexpected and unknown place. And I think many of us are experiencing that now. We also, share the stories of Jesus's life, death, and resurrection. As complicated and complex as those stories are, they remind us of how God is with us even in the darkest valleys of life. Um, this Sunday, we're going to talk in our online family chapel about how Jesus ascended into heaven after being resurrected and meeting with the disciples in various places. And it helps us to think about how we might continue to go on and to fulfill Jesus's commandments, even when we are in the midst of some loss and grief. So here's the thing. We need stories, not just one or two or the quick kind that I make up in my head when I'm all tense and upset. No, we need a rich variety of stories that help our brains to make meaning out of unknown and new situations. I am thinking particularly about our seniors these days who have lost so many rituals and celebrations that they were very much looking forward to. And I know that someday those seniors will be telling their children about the time they graduated during a pandemic. And I think thanks to family and friends who found creative ways to celebrate them virtually and safely, and I think hopefully with some stories of faith and some stories of hope and resilience, that they will in time make meaning out of this situation, and it will be a story of opportunity where we thought none existed, stories of resilience and strength. um, I think these are going to be really rich stories, but it'll take time. um, so friends, this is why Children and Family Ministry focuses on story so much in our ministry with your children and with you. Stories bring us meaning, stories bring us hope, and stories bring us new life. Stories have the power to transform us into the people God created us to be. Thanks be to God. So our summer program schedule is all about connecting stories. It begins this week. So on Sunday we will read a Bible story in our family chapel and discuss that as we've been doing. And then you will receive via email some things that you can use to continue the conversation at home. And then on Tuesday, we will take a break for a midweek pause at 7 p.m., hopefully with summer hours that's not encroaching too much on bedtime. We'll take a break, and that will be a 20-minute time to think about how the story is relating to our own very real lives in this time, and an opportunity to share about that. And then on Thursdays, we are going to have our regular lunchtime story time, which we've been enjoying doing so much since March with the kids. But instead of being a daily thing, it will be a Thursday, once a week thing. So please come and enjoy a story with us, share your story with us. help us to continue to find hope and meaning as the days and weeks ahead come.